All righty. Well, welcome to office hours. I know we've all been chatting a little bit already this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are. So thank you for joining us. This is our third office hours, and we're excited to be here. I see a few repeat offenders, so that's a good sign. That means that you guys are enjoying this new program. We launched this program the beginning of this year. So like I said, this is our third office hours. Every month there's a different theme. Sometimes it's industry topics, industry wide issues. That's what we started with in January. This month we are taking it a little bit of a different spin. So we'll talk about career advancement in the cloud and what that really means. So we have two speakers on. Shahzad is my co-host. Shahzad Ali runs the ACE program at Aviatrix, and he does so much more, but that's how I like to refer to him. And we also have John Smoker on. He is a solutions architect here at Aviatrix. We lovingly call him the labs guy, but like I mentioned to you, Rob, he does so much more than just labs. And my name is Katie Holmes. I also run the ACE program from the marketing and programmatic perspective. And I also run the cloud network community. So like I said, thank you for joining. My favorite part about this program is that really there are no rules. So you can always feel free to take yourself off mute, ask questions. If you're shy, you can always ask questions in the chat. And we also did something a little bit different this month where we gave the attendees, you guys, the opportunity to ask questions ahead of time in case you weren't feeling like you wanted to ask your questions in the group setting. So we have those questions and we'll probably get to them towards the end, of the presentation. So like I said, thank you for joining. I'll put myself on mute now because you probably don't want to hear me talk for the next 30 minutes to an hour. But with that, I will pass it over to you, Shahzad.
All right. Thanks, Katie. Yeah, so thanks again to all of you joining this session with us. And like Katie mentioned, we have John Smoker with us. And the last name is always, fascinating to me, right? So, John, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing, Shazad?
Very good, very good. Yeah, so John, I will just, jump into the meat of it, right? I can't wait to talk to you in depth. So, can you just walk me through your career path so that we all have this baseline set up, who you are, where you came from, and then we can just dive into some career discussions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this gave me an opportunity to kind of reflect back on my career, and it made me realize that last month was a bit of an anniversary for me. It's been 30 years in tech uh,
Wow.
as of February. So I've had a had a long career to this point. I hope it's not. I hope this isn't the the final final word on it. I hope there's more to come. But yeah, just give you kind of walk you through kind of how I got from my start in tech to where I am today. Not too many employers, but lots of different roles. Um, every few years, I'm always looking for something new to learn or grow. But first 14 years of my career I spent at a bank, primarily in the mainframe space. I was a DBA for a time, systems programmer. I did some mainframe networking. That was my only professional networking experience. I mean, specifically, dedicated networking. And then, towards the end of that time, I had become responsible for the online banking platform. So that wasn't mainframe based, but and we had gone through like a year before I left, we had started a project to replace our online banking platform with something new. And I became acquainted with a vendor that had a product that I thought, wow, this is really like the best tech out there right now for this type of thing. And I liked it so much that once that we went live with the product, I accepted a position to join that company, which is where I spent the next 13 years helping other banks level up their online banking. Got to travel all over the country, all over the world. It's just a really great experience there as well.
Nice.
And towards the end of that, I had gotten myself into an architect role. So less travel, more drawing pictures. And this was right about the time when the cloud was really getting big. right? You could really begin to see how this was going to transform the industry. And I was trying to convince, folks internally, this is where we need to go. We need to we need to leverage cloud to just make all of our processes more efficient, more streamlined. Things that would take us months to do. You could see we could break that down to hours in some cases. But banking is a very conservative industry,
Hmm.
and it was very difficult to make that case at that time. I think now it's a little bit different, but back 2015, 16, it was a challenge, and so I knew that's where I wanted to be, and so I knew at that point that that was a change I needed to make,
I see.
and so yeah, so I found a company that was 100% cloud.
Hmm.
Joined a startup. That was my question to them. Do you have any data centers? No. Okay, I'm in. So I accepted a DevOps role at a hospitality startup and spent about 2.5 years with them. And very, very similar trajectory as before. I found a product or brought in a vendor. In this case, it was Aviatrix. Brought in this vendor, really enjoyed the tech, helped us solve some business problems that we had. And I thought so highly of it that I wanted again to go from the enterprise side to the vendor side. And now I've been with Aviatrix for 3 years.
Awesome, awesome, man. So the company that you mentioned, the bank, was it Fiserv? I remember.
No, so the bank was Wilmington Trust,
Okay,
and now which was acquired by M&T some
okay,
years back. I mentioned that because M&T is now a Aviatrix customer as well.
right, right.
And then it was Fiserv who I went to. I went to actually it was a small startup online banking platform called Carillion. They were acquired by CheckFree, which was acquired by Fiserv, and yeah, that was how that went.
So how was this shift? I just want to let our audience, feel what you felt back then, because I know a lot of people are still my friends. When I talk to them, they are still the infrastructure architects, very hands down into the on-premise world. But when I talk to them about joining the cloud momentum, maybe accepting a position in a cloud company or as a cloud engineer or architect, they have this fear, right? Because I see you were the infrastructure architect, then you took this jump, huge in my opinion, and became the DevOps engineer. So how was it? Just explain it to our audience so that if we have people listening, they can take your feedback and nuggets and apply that.
Yeah, I guess so. What I would say is I'm always interested in learning and having fun. All right, those are really important to me as far as what I do for work. I have to work. I've come to terms with that. I don't have the money to be able to not do that. And so if I'm going to do that for 8 hours a day, I want to learn things and have fun. So for me, that's what that change was all about. And it came you know, at somewhat of a cost. Like nobody wants to, you always want to think of your career as, you know, more money, better title, like always kind of progressing in that direction. And I kind of felt or knew that I couldn't just jump in the cloud at kind of the same level that I had been or had achieved on-prem. But again, it was more important for me to learn and get into that space than it was to have that office um, and so, I was an infrastructure architect. You could
Hmm.
say DevOps engineer doesn't sound as exciting, or it doesn't have the same cred as architect does. But it couldn't have been the better decision for me because it was just where I had kind of plateaued in my learning. Once I hit cloud, it was drinking from the fire hose, really just all kinds of new things to get into and learn and feel like you can make a difference, improve things more quickly.
So are there any resources that you would like to mention to our audience? Anything that helped you, any training, any certification, maybe talking to some mentor or something?
Yeah, absolutely. So I the first thing I did was I applied for the AWS's solutions architect training, which they have their own training track, and that's not the first step in that journey. But I think that it's a good place to start because it really and this goes not just for AWS, but any cloud provider. Their architect training is really going to have the kind of the core fundamentals of the platform. And then once you have that, if you want to specialize in DevOps or security and networking track, I think that's a good follow-up. And this really, I acknowledge this might be my learning style, but having those core fundamentals kind of first and that broad learning was really helpful to me.
Yeah. Any question from the audience? You see a lot of people actually joined.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a very free form type of meeting. There are no rules. Just feel comfortable here. Hey, Vinod, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm in operations and I do handle networks. So how I can prepare for the multi-cloud things, and I have knowledge about clouds, but how it will fit with Aviatrix, and what should I choose to learn as a
Yeah,
network engineer?
yeah, I can't actually take that. So basically, a lot of people are in your shoes. I would say that, especially if you were in the data centers or co-location dealing with the physical devices. Now all of a sudden you are inside the cloud. So I think the first thing would be to set the baseline, right? And we know that we were discussing it before during this call. You already completed your ACE associate certificate. That will actually give you a very good understanding about what cloud is, and especially what cloud networking and security is. Because George was mentioning the AWS Solution Architect course here, and I have also seen it. It's not basically networking and security focused. It covers a lot of things, right? So AS Associate, in my opinion, and obviously I work for Aviatrix, but even if I don't, I would say the same thing, will give you that baseline understanding of what different clouds are and how they actually allow you to create the route tables, create security groups, create firewall rules, right? And once you have that, then my suggestion would be to take ACE Professional, Aviatrix Professional course, because it will let you see the pain an architect would go through or an implementer would go through in terms of deploying and designing the cloud network. And again, this is purely cloud networking and security focus, right? We do touch the on-premise because that's the reality. That's part of the parcel. You have to have on-premise resources somewhere like branches or bank or retail and whatnot. But fundamentally, it will give you this option to touch the cloud, deploy the cloud networking yourself. We give you the lab pod and everything. And after that, we have a very specialized course called operations or day two operations, if you want to call it. And that will teach you exactly what you are asking for. It will show you the tips, tricks, best practices if you have an issue in your network. If let's say your ping is not working or your packets are being dropped, or if your customers or clients are complaining about the on-premise connectivity or throughput issues, for example, it will tell you exactly what to click, where to go, how to look at the logs. And this is again, one thing we do the best, in my opinion, is giving you that level of visibility that you basically want as an enterprise architect or engineer. Because unfortunately, these CSPs are not giving you that level of visibility. Their hands are tied, right? It's a shared infrastructure where they're providing you, let's say, their routing component or their transit gateway or their firewall, right? It's running on a shared infrastructure, so they cannot really go deeper into providing that level of visibility. Good, good. Any other question from
Yeah.
the audience?
Thank you, Sajjad.
Yeah, no problem. No.
Yeah, I have one question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so as John earlier mentioned, right, like he moved from on-prem to cloud environment, and he started with the training with the AWS solution architect, right? So if we focus on just the DevOps type of work, right? Like, okay, in on-prem, we were using something different, like Ansible, Runbooks, other thing, right? And when we comes to the cloud, yeah, we can still run it, kind of, but that's not the efficient way to do it. And then when you go to the cloud providers, right, like each have their own method, right? Okay, AWS, oh sorry, cloud formation stack, Azure, mostly PowerShell.
PowerShell, yeah.
Yeah, so this, and once you try, like we are in the multi-cloud environment, right? So what is the best way to do that, and what's the best way to get training for that type of tool which can be used across for DevOps type of operations across multi-cloud, not just with one cloud?
That's a tough question, because it's, as you say, there are lots of different tools, both on-prem and cloud. And it's hard for me to say, oh, this is the one thing. Yeah, you mentioned Ansible, and as being kind of an on-prem tooling that you might want to replace when you get in the cloud. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean,
Yeah, Puppet,
if that's a
Chef,
tool,
like all these things.
yeah, I mean, if there's things that work for you and that you know, I don't think there's any reason to just kind of throw that out and take something new just for the sake of taking something new. It's really case by case. One of the reasons I like Terraform is just because it is multi-cloud, in that you learn patterns for doing things in one cloud, and you can apply those same patterns to other, not just clouds, but anybody that has a Terraform provider. And so to me, it's like almost the most broad-based tool out there for provisioning infrastructure. I don't know if I'm answering your question, though.
No,
Ultimately.
I think you're right, John. And I also have seen a lot of customers, partners, they have standardized their automation based on Terraform, because like you said, it's in my opinion, de facto standard when it comes to automating multiple clouds.
Yeah.
Because like Rizwan was mentioning, AWS has their own cloud formation automation version, and then other providers, they would have their own. So it's going to be very difficult for someone automating the cloud networking and security to learn all these different tools and automation languages. This Terraform actually gives I would say, the single language framework, which you can apply to your CI/CD pipeline. This is another buzzword we use a lot. And yeah, I think this is going to be my next question. Like, in the DevOps world, we have the CI/CD pipeline, but I actually work in Cisco, and I work with the automation frameworks. What's the difference between automation and DevOps, and where do you fit this CI/CD? Because a lot of engineers I know, they want to make this shift because they like the automation aspects of cloud, the agility of the cloud, and they want to learn this, but they get hung up sort of to these buzzwords and like fear of touching something unknown.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand, and you could get a dictionary definition here of DevOps, but I think of the point, or the reason why DevOps kind of as a concept rose to a buzzword status, is that it was really trying to shorten the feedback loop between software development and implementation. Because historically you had people writing software, throwing it over to people, over the wall to folks who were implementing that software, then handing it off to folks that are operating that software. And so any issues you had at any point in that in those processes, it took so long to get remediation through the system. So DevOps aim to make the people who are building the software responsible for operating the software, so that they're understanding what what the resiliency or security issues are, and they can bake that in at the beginning or remediate it quickly when found once it goes live. And so, that's what you're trying to do there. When you're talking about automation, that doesn't, or CI/CD pipelines, that doesn't necessarily relate directly to DevOps as a concept that's trying to solve what I just described. You can do automation in your silo of any one of those points in that system, and you can and DevOps isn't, you just don't implement DevOps overnight. You don't sprinkle some DevOps on a problem and it's fixed. It's an organizational structure that's just again trying to create a quicker feedback loop in the software development process.
Got it. Got it. No, very good to know. So I see we have some questions in our Zoom chat, and let's see. So Trent is asking, John, in your experience, are there any workloads that should not be running in the public cloud? If so, what are the attributes of those workloads or the circumstances surrounding those? And then, are you aware of any tools or platforms to make that owned infrastructure more flexible, automated, and easier to manage?
Okay, I might need you to. I was thinking about the first part of the question, so
Yeah, there were, I think,
might have to repeat the second one. Yeah, so any workloads, like I don't think that there's necessarily a default answer to that, right? Like you can. I think workloads that wouldn't be, or that decision would be made based on external factors that you might have, like regulatory issues that you might have, or compliance, things of that nature, or where you have to, house data in a particular country, like it can't cross boundaries. Like these are all considerations that might have you doing things on-prem versus the cloud. But I wouldn't say it's like this thing belongs in cloud, this thing belongs on-prem.
Okay.
And
yeah,
then what
so,
was the other? Yeah, what was the rest of the question?
Yeah, are you aware of any tools or platform to make that infrastructure more flexible or automated?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question. Whoever
Trent,
asked it.
you
Yeah,
can
do you
go
want
off
to?
mute and ask.
Yeah, for the on-prem workloads, are you aware of any tools? I'm thinking of stuff like OpenStack to make things more automatable, so you don't have to manually configure server storage and switches all the time, over and over.
Oh, geez. I mean, yeah, we were just talking about Terraform, and Ansible. These are, I guess, two of the things top of mind that I rely on for creating repeatable infrastructures in the cloud.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's hundreds of other things you could use, but
Yeah, so
Okay.
back in my life, I can add some nuggets here, because when I was actually working in VMware, I was working on a project to automate SAP's data center using the NSX product back then. And I recall that there were a lot of customers, they were worried about putting their SAP workload in the cloud. And they thought that it's not going to be possible ever to have a production grade SAP workload running inside the cloud, because of the type of servers they were using were very bulky, very huge, required a lot of memory, because it's an in-memory database, if you recall, right? And now look at the world, right? People are running SAP very effectively, successfully in the cloud with all the automation cloud can provide. And in fact, one of our customers, and it's a public case study, so you can also go and Google, or maybe I'll Google and share the link here. NTT Business Data, they are using SAP in the cloud, and they're providing SAP as a service to their clients. And they're using Aviatrix, by the way. So, I mean, things have changed, right? The old school thought process we had is different now. And I just pasted another link in the chat here, which talks about migrating your mainframe workloads into the cloud. Just imagine, I can't imagine, right? Because I remember when I was in the university, I dealt with the mainframe like in 1993, 94, when I was doing my bachelor's. That actually tells you my age. So, but and I could never imagine that these type of systems can actually run in the cloud, because when people look at the cloud, it looks like it has to be very shiny object. The application has to be written in a very specific way, which is cloud compatible. But things have changed. So, in my opinion, there is no workload that you cannot run in the cloud. Everything pretty much can run into the cloud. Now, there is one more interesting question, and I see that question not very often, but yeah, here and there. So Muhammad is asking to give you or give us or give our audience any guideline to use Plumi or any other programming languages with your cloud workload to automate your cloud workloads.
Yeah, that's yeah, Plumi's definitely on my radar, and I know that there are some folks here at Aviatrix that have looked at that. I'm not across exactly what we've done with that, but it's certainly intriguing, and I know we have at least one customer that is using Plumi with Aviatrix. I just don't have the details on that. I'm also a big fan, and a lot of what the automations that I build here with Aviatrix is relies on Golang as well.
Okay.
Just to
hope,
throw that out there.
Good. Yeah, so I hope that will answer the question from the chat or what Muhammad was asking. If you have any follow-up question, you can also go off mute. That's totally fine, and ask it live. That's not a problem. Any other question from the audience? I saw Rob was actually nodding when you were answering John's side. Do you have any question or comment? Go ahead.
Actually, slightly off tangent, which you guys are going to love. But for people who haven't done the certification courses, you should really look into it, because the value you get out of it is off the charts. Hats off to the entire team about that one.
Thank you, Rob.
And also, Aviatrix is not really just a product; it's like a whole stack. It's like a layer. I think I agree with John, where you see it and it's like, oh, that actually makes sense to this network, enterprise network guy, working on VMS systems and crazy stuff in the background, and this works. And it's good stuff. But so one of the questions I've got is about scalability. How big could you theoretically take it, or reliably take, say, site to cloud SDN deployment with secure edges, coming back to multiple regions? That's potentially, you're talking hundreds of thousands of gateways. How would you consider scaling something like that?
Yeah, I don't know, Shazad, if you have any thoughts on that in terms of like real Aviatrix customers at scale.
No, so we have a lot of customers actually who have deployed number of gateways in thousands actually. I cannot really say the name here because it's a public forum.
Obviously.
It's not a public reference customer for us. But if you send me email, which is very simple, shazad@aviatrix.com, actually I can provide you all that number. I can provide you the list of customers using thousands of gateways with the Aviatrix platform. And when it comes to supporting that scale, let's say I don't know how many gateways you have in your mind, but there are different design patterns. Because see, the cloud itself and also Aviatrix is very flexible. When people look at a product or a platform, sometimes they box themselves into the limits of what they see. Sometimes they don't see beyond that. So I think at that point it's very important to talk to us. And also, if you are talking to AWS or Azure, there is no harm in it, because we are partners there, and ask them about supporting that type of workload or the gateways. But in my case, I have clearly seen customers running thousands of gateways in AWS, thousands of them in Azure, without any issue. And some customers are here in Bay Area, for example, San Mateo, one of the customers. Another customer is in Portland, actually, where John Smoker is. And one more customer running Azure heavy workloads with our gateways is in actually Australia. So you will see these customers spread across the globe. You will also see these customers using our platforms across multiple verticals. So there's no vertical boundary. This is another thing I see from customers is, hey, is your platform only relevant for, let's say, transportation or retail, or can I use it for healthcare? So the answer is yes, and pretty much all these verticals are using our platform and deploying thousands and workload with thousands of gateways behind them. Cool. Cool. All right. So if we go ahead, any question from the audience before?
I just dropped.
Greeting.
Sorry, I just dropped another question into the chat. That was one of the questions that was asked ahead
Okay.
of this. And then I think someone else I just completely interrupted. So
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I would let Mohammed, you go ahead first, and then I'll take this, Katie, if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry for the interruption. I want to ask, is there a way, is there option for gateways to access it without key pair as using agents in multi-cloud?
Gateway to access without key pair?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for transit gateway or spoke away
Yes.
or
Yes.
spoke gateway.
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing that you would do, and this is, I guess, true for other vendors as well. First, when you log into the Aviatrix Copilot, you will onboard your cloud accounts, your AWS, Azure, GCP accounts. And after
Yes.
that, you don't have to worry about key pairs. You don't have to worry about anything, because we will manage automatically everything for you.
Yeah, that's what I want to know, but because there will be so many keepers for the others gateways. So I want to know, it's possible to do as an agent without keepers, so I can log in, access it from all three CSP providers like that. Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
That what
Yeah. You will be able to. And then the beauty is that these gateways that we have, they are hardened devices. So you will access them through the UI. So it's a very protected and secure access. We won't even let you or anybody log into the CLI console, because we have seen a lot of issues with that. So we have provided everything in the automated fashion. All the steps that you need, anything that you need to perform on the Aviatrix gateway is done directly through either the Copilot UI or with the automation, which is Terraform in our case. So you don't have to worry about rotating the keys, managing the keys, knowing the credentials. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it
Yeah,
in a
thanks.
secure fashion. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll
thanks.
go back to no problem, Hamad. So the question, John, is how do you view the underlying connectivity providers behind Direct Connect, Express Route, Fast Connect, and are they differentiated commodities? If not, what attribute of those services do you see value in? Okay, I can take it. Yeah, so basically, again, this is the power and strength of the platform, because this is completely agnostic to the underlying technology, right? So it doesn't really matter if you have Direct Connect, Express Route, or Fast Connect. The transit gateways will connect to the on-premise resources, which is your business goal in this scenario when you're using these private circuits, and will provide the overlay connectivity, which is completely IPsec encrypted technology or communication And yeah, so yeah, it doesn't really matter. You can have, let's say, using Equinix or Megaport or any other colo provider who are providing these type of services. And yeah, we can actually provide you the connectivity. Now, the second part of the question is that what attributes of those services do you see value in? To be honest, these providers or these services become the underlay for us. So all we need is just connectivity, and we'll take care of your business problems. Any questions related to the career advancement or certification, or where do you want to go from here to there? Maybe you have some challenges or uh, are sort of hesitant to take that step. Share with us, and we can actually help you.
I have one more that was a pre-question. I'm going to try to rephrase it. This was from Mohammed.
Okay.
As a network engineer, how can we adapt our skills to understand any of the CSPs, networking and security across the different CSPs? And what is a key factor or pillar for cloud networking that we should follow as a framework?
Yeah, John, you want to take it?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. I'm trying to think or reframe it in my mind. I mean, ultimately, I think that security on-prem in cloud aren't really different. I mean, there's certainly considerations when you're talking about the fact that in the cloud everything has the potential to be on the internet, whereas on-prem you're more segmented off with only very specific entry points. And I think there's good and bad to both, but at the end of the day, the things that you know about how to secure applications, it's the transferable skill, right? It's kind of the same methodologies and thinkings there. And yeah, just in terms of like skills to improve, when going to the cloud, it's really just about learning the ecosystem and the tools available for each of the providers. And all I can offer there in terms of like how do you gain those skills. You can do like I did and take a job where you're going to be steeped in that every day. Whether that's an advancement in your career or a little bit of a sidestep like I took. That, I mean, to me, that's the best way. It's just to get in there and start doing it. But also the trainings and the certifications that all the cloud providers provide. It's always the more you learn. And I'll say that about certifications too, is I like to think about them as a way to learn, not as a way to prove myself that I've got all of these badges, right? I think if you take that approach to them, I think they're more valuable to you and then ultimately to your employer. So I think that's kind of the two things that I don't know if Shazad, maybe you have thoughts on the part of the question where he's asking key factor or pillars for cloud networking as a framework.
Yeah, no, actually, that's a very interesting question, because I remember when I was in VMware, obviously VMware, I was dealing with the NSX, which is the private cloud product or SDN product, right? But still we were automating the on-premise servers with NSX, right? There was no cloud component. But then when I started looking into the cloud technology, there was a fear. To be honest, there was a fear of unknown to me also. And I actually struggled in the beginning. And unfortunately, there was no one who can tell me or give me this guidance saying, Shazad, don't worry. This is just networking. You learned and mastered your networking already. You know how routing works, what IP addresses are, subnetting is, security groups are, firewall rules are. It cannot be different than that. And this is exactly what happened. But initially, I was really, struggling. And unfortunately, there was no such training that could give me that focused learning, like cloud, number one, and then networking and security. So I started looking into the AWS solution architect, the associate courses, and they started talking right into S3 buckets, the IAM policies,
Hmm.
right? The DevOps tool. And I said, man, I'm not that person. Why are they teaching me this? Then I looked into Azure. And then same problem happened. They were teaching me about SQL, how to migrate your AD into the cloud, how to run this storage into the cloud. And I said, dude, can you please tell me how to do networking in Azure? And when I joined Aviatrix, I had the exact same aha moment that, I need to enable a fellow like me who are struggling to understand cloud networking. And this is exactly the time when we created the ACE Associate back in 2009, 19, I should say, not 2009. Yeah, so I mean, I'm selfish here. Obviously, I'm advocating for Aviatrix, but this is a reality. If you look at the Aviatrix ACE Associate course, it teaches you the cloud networking 101. It talks very little about Aviatrix in itself, but I would say that's what you need to look into seriously if you are interested in learning. And then the
Yeah.
pillars are same, right? The design pillars are not changing. If you look at the AWS framework, what they call the
A well
aspect.
architected framework.
Yeah, thanks. Well
Mhm.
architected framework. The pillars are same, right? We call them CRAMs.
Yeah.
Cost wasn't there, by the way, in the on-premise, but now we have cost factor as well, right? So cost, recoverability, R for that, A for availability, M for manageability, P for performance, S for security, right? So now if you see that, if you were using, let's say, Cisco data center, 3-tier architecture, or Juniper, these are the same pillar. They're not changing. The IP addressing is not changing. Subnetting is not changing, right? They're just adding a wrapper around it and giving it to you. And with Aviatrix, what we're trying to do, we are making it even more simpler. So we are saying, even forget about that wrapper that you don't understand. When you log into the Aviatrix Copilot UI, it's a very familiar feeling you get if you were using Cisco CLI or Juniper or any other tool to manage your networking and security. And I think this is our strength also. Yeah, so as a career advice, I would say look into the ACE Associate, just get a feeling of the UI that we provide, because it's a very networking and security lens we have, and definitely is going to help you a lot. Even if you adopt Aviatrix or not, don't worry about it. But just from the learning point of view, how things should be done in the cloud, how the data operation should look like into the cloud. If you're looking for best practices, look at this product, Aviatrix product, the controller and Copilot, and the choice is yours. If you want to adopt it, that's fine. If not, you can at least what's out there in the world.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add, we're talking about frameworks in the cloud, and I certainly see Aviatrix as a framework. And to kind of give you my experience when I went to that 100% cloud startup, back in 2018 or whatever it was. We didn't have any network engineers in the company. It was 100% development. And so you just had, we had over 100 AWS accounts, and we empowered our developers to build things, which is great at a startup. But there wasn't any networking framework in place. People were just implementing connectivity in whatever way they thought best or could figure out how to do. And so, when I joined the company as somebody who had less of a developer background or software engineer background, and more of a broad-based background that included networking, I saw it was important to get all of us onto the same page. It was so hard to troubleshoot one team talking to another team, across accounts. You're looking at logs in this account, trying to correlate them with networking logs in this other account. And so Aviatrix provided this framework for us to get visibility, to gain, to implement security, and to standardize. And we were also very heavily automated shop, heavy Terraform, everything we did. And Aviatrix was very easy to kind of slot into that, take out the pieces we were using and replace with Aviatrix. So I again, I just, that's another framework that then we were AWS only, but then also translates to the other clouds as well.
Good. Hey, Ranganath, I noticed that you actually are a SAP consultant. Any career advice you want to provide to our audience here? And also let us know if you are actually using SAP in cloud or not. Because we had this SAP discussion and I did not realize that you are the SAP expert here.
Yes. SAP systems are changing drastically. So add old systems which are based on Oracle and ECC databases, and you have HANA databases, and they are also bringing quite a lot of cloud tools as well. So they are running S4 HANA systems inside the cloud, and I've created a platform which resembles exactly SAP BTP. So when I'm creating the platforms, I'm using all the cloud technologies, right? So in the background, they are using the same open source tools and creating the product. So it means everybody out there, the large companies, everybody is using some kind of cloud native tools in terms of networking or whatever, and then establishing those stuff. So if you have the applications running in the cloud, and with the end users, with the dynamics of new applications being rolled out to every different kinds of group sets, you can create any kinds of dashboards which run on their mobiles, tablets, or whatever. So that's where a big advantage for SAP to run in the cloud. And I looked at the cloud offering from SAP itself. So not all services are provided on all the cloud service providers. So only certain parts are in some cloud, certain parts are in another cloud. So the dynamics are there basically. If they have a tool, something like networking tool, then they can provide services in all the cloud regions, all the cloud providers in all the regions. Say, right? I don't know, is it because of networking stuff or capacity as well sometimes. So you have some data centers with more capacity. So it could be that as well. But yeah, most of the customers who are using SAP trying to move into the cloud as well.
No, that is a very good, interesting point because, and you are spot on actually, that SAP, when you're running it at one cloud, there are specific tools that are, working best in that one cloud. But then there are other tools that are best in the other cloud. And that actually makes a perfect case for multi-cloud, right? And it also makes a perfect case for you to learn multiple clouds, or as an audience, right? From your learning point of view or from your career development point of view, because now you cannot hide. You don't have a choice. I mean, earlier AWS was the dominant player. People were getting their certification and learning AWS was good enough to land a job. But I think the world has changed now. And like you said, you have to understand and learn the multi-cloud technology, and especially in the networking and security space. Like I said, Aviatrix again, since we have done it for a number of customers, I think that's a great place to start your learning from, to look into the
One more
offering.
thing I've observed initially it took me some time. Oh, one more cloud. But later on, I realized that all the cloud providers are the same, just like SAP. Wherever you switch the customer, end of the day, SAP system is the same. You just need to understand their business process and then the flow. That's it. So here also it is the same. You understand the nitty-gritty details on each cloud provider, then you are able to switch between the tools. That's all you need. So now it becomes like subject matter expert in a certain area of expertise, apart from the business. You are too like this.
No, that's really good advice. So we are actually approaching towards the end of our session. So if there are no more questions from the audience, I will have maybe one or two questions for you,
and
John,
also,
and then we can wrap up. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, and I also, just before we start to lose people, it's a shameless plug for my feedback survey. Obviously, like I said at the beginning, this is a new program. So your feedback is really valuable to us, and it's also an opportunity for you to request future office hours topics. So off I go. I'm sharing my survey link one more time. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Katie. I see question from Noble. Oh, good. That's a good one, man. What's the best route to become a cloud security or a cloud network security engineer? John, you want to provide your insights or you want me to go?
I don't have anything specific. I guess my first thought was implement Aviatrix and then boom, cloud security engineer.
That's a simple answer. I want to give some difficult answer here, not the simple answer. The stake is security and become the security expert. No, so yeah, security I think is a very detailed topic, and it could be a very lengthy discussion if I start talking about the route to become the cloud security engineer. But I would say the first thing first is knowing the fundamentals, okay, and then looking at the security from a layered approach, because security is such a big topic, not only in cloud but also in the on-premise. I'm pretty sure if you dealt with security, there is an infosec security, there's a compliance security, audit security, policies. They also come under security. Then you have your lovely firewalls, right, running in the on-premise or in the cloud. They also fall under the same security umbrella. But I would say, if you want to become a cloud security engineer, first thing is look at the NIST framework for zero trust network architecture, okay, because that's a very vendor neutral standard, which actually provides you the ingredients of a good security posture or design in on-premise or in the cloud, right? So I would start from here so you have a mental picture of what exactly this whole security landscape is, right? And once you understand that zero trust network architecture, then you have to go a little bit deeper into the topic that you're interested in. For example, there is a component of user security in the NIST zero trust architecture. There is a component of firewall. There is a component of IAM security policies, right? Um, and then you need to obviously gain knowledge in that area, right? But if you just want to stay and look at things from a very high level perspective, the AS security track that we have created could be a very good starting point. Why? Because that will actually give you that a wider lens to look at the security landscape, right? The encryption is there, the firewalling is there, threat prevention is another angle into the security, and you will understand what exactly a best architecture or blueprint for a security could look like, right? And that could be your starting point, because after that you have to go deeper. You cannot just stop there. Let's say if you are dealing with the firewall, next generation firewalls or cloud firewalls, doesn't really matter, then you have to double click on that, and then you have to take the specific training offered by those CSPs to go deeper into that knowledge. But if you are looking for roles, if you want to apply for, let's say, cloud security engineer role out there in some company, I know a lot of people are applying in NVIDIA these days because of AI. So let's say if you are one of them, take a look at this course. It will definitely help you prepare for the interview. It will give you all the jargon and the keywords that you need. And obviously you have to have some hands-on, right? So that's, goes without saying, because otherwise you won't be successful. So yeah, so look into that. And we are here to help you also. You can reach out to us is at aviatrix.com, and we can also provide you further pointers along those lines. Yeah, so we'll paste you a link in the chat for the Aviatrix A security course. Yeah. Okay, so this is,
I'll
yeah.
do that right now.
So Katie, this is going to be the end of our session. So any words before we close?
No, thanks again for joining everybody, and thanks, John, of course, for joining us and helping out today. So our next office hours will be the last Friday of April. I cannot believe we're talking about April already. And that topic will be the world of cloud security. So perfect timing since that's obviously what we're ending this call talking about. So we hope to see you guys all there. And thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.